At the construction site, repetition was part of the routine. Every week, similar tasks were performed. Materials were lifted, structures were assembled, equipment was adjusted, and teams followed established procedures. The rhythm of the work created a sense of familiarity. Familiarity can be comforting. It can also be misleading. The project involved the expansion of a commercial building. The crew had already completed several phases successfully. They had installed beams, poured concrete, and assembled support structures without major issues. Confidence was high across the team. During a morning briefing, the supervisor introduced the day's task: installing another set of structural components at a moderate height. The team exchanged knowing looks. They had done this before, many times. The phrase echoed informally among them. "We've done this before." At first glance, that statement seemed positive. Experience builds competence. Practice improves coordination. Repetition strengthens teamwork. However, hidden within that phrase was an illusion, the belief that past success automatically guarantees present safety. As preparations began, some steps were approached with less intensity than usual. The checklist was reviewed quickly instead of carefully. The site layout had changed slightly since the last installation, but that difference did not receive much attention. After all, the task was considered routine. The construction environment, however, is never identical from one day to the next. Weather conditions shift, ground surfaces settle, equipment wears down, materials vary slightly. New workers join the team. Even small changes can introduce new risks. While the crew positioned their tools, a safety coordinator named Raphael observed from a distance. He noticed subtle differences in behavior. Movements were faster. Communication was shorter. Assumptions replaced confirmations. He approached the group and asked a simple question: "What is different about today compared to the last time?" At first, there was silence. Then, someone mentioned the new access pathway. Another pointed out that a different lifting device was being used. A third noted that wind conditions were slightly stronger. Suddenly, the team realized that this was not exactly the same situation. The illusion began to fade. Raphael gathered the crew for a brief pause. He explained that overconfidence often hides behind experience. When workers believe they fully understand a task, they may unconsciously reduce their level of attention. The mind fills in gaps based on memory rather than current observation. This phenomenon is common in high-repetition environments like construction sites. Tasks that feel routine can become automatic. Automatic behavior saves time, but it can also reduce critical thinking. The team restarted the preparation process with renewed focus. They carefully re-evaluated the risk assessment based on the current layout. Equipment was inspected thoroughly. Roles were clarified to avoid overlap or confusion. Nothing dramatic had happened. There was no incident. But the potential for error had been present, quietly growing under the assumption of familiarity. Later that day, Raphael shared a broader message during the safety meeting. He explained that experience is a powerful asset, but it must be paired with awareness. Each task deserves fresh evaluation, even if it has been completed dozens of times before. He reminded the crew that procedures exist because conditions are dynamic. The construction site evolves daily. Steel structures rise, pathways shift, materials move. The environment that existed last week no longer exists in the same way. The phrase, "we've done this before," should signal knowledge, not complacency. To reinforce this mindset, the site leadership introduced a new practice. Before starting any repeated task, teams would identify at least 3 factors that were different from the previous execution. This simple exercise encouraged observation and critical thinking. Over time, the culture shifted. Workers became more engaged in analyzing each situation individually. Conversations grew more detailed. Assumptions were replaced with verification. The project continued successfully, meeting quality standards and maintaining a strong safety record. The greatest achievement, however, was not just progress on the building. It was the strengthening of awareness across the team. In the end, the illusion of "we've done this before" was replaced by a more responsible mindset. Let's confirm everything again. At a construction site, repetition builds skill, but safety depends on attention. No task is ever exactly the same, and every day deserves the same level of care as the first.